Is project-based learning the future of education? This is one thing that is a reoccurring theme now. As a design and tech teacher for the last 10 years, it is something that I'm very familiar with in regards to what is a project, how do we actually engage our students, and how do we make it authentic? Because there's a couple of key features of design and project-based learning that a lot of people will skim over. But the reason why it's top of mind right now is because we are seeing such a rapid progression of AI in the space of physically producing a task, such as they're writing full essays, they're creating emails, they're writing or creating videos from a single prompt. There is the full production side of things is becoming easier and easier. We need to break up our use of AI into two different categories depending on what is the intention of, say, this assessment task or this concept that we're trying to learn. Because if we look at project-based learning as a whole, it needs to first identify a problem, and then the solution is the project. How do we do that? Well, we need to figure out first, is the learning opportunity in the completion of the project, or is it in the actual process of design, creation, iteration, and actually that process of actually building? Because ultimately, when we're looking at AI and how we use AI, we've got to break it into two categories. Is this thing going to actually just do the task for us and just going to execute on, say, a basic level task, writing a copy, writing emails, writing a assessment notification? What is the specific output we're looking for? Or is it supposed to help our process of learning? Is it supposed to give us guiding questions and progressively help get our clarity of this specific topic? Today I'm presenting a AI in education workshop, and it's all around assessment design and rethinking assessment. There's a few frameworks we're looking at, but the main question I'm posing is our future around project-based learning? Is that where we're going? Because ultimately, we as human beings, we get a sense of achievement once we've completed a product. Yesterday I was marking my year 10 industrial technology timber projects in the first iteration, and they're designing and building a bedside table, and they'd finished the side frames, and it had been a 6-week struggle up to that point for a lot of students to just follow the task. They couldn't really see the intention other than they've seen the end result they're looking at, but it was too far away. But the closer we got to that first milestone of having the side frames together, they could see why and the purpose of what they're doing. And they started getting a sense of accomplishment and pride in their work. Even though they knew exactly the steps for success, there's a procedure, there's demonstrations, there's one-on-one guidance, and the learning is significantly happening as they build each thing. But until we had this milestone, this check-in point of there was an end line, there was no pressure, there was no time stamp, there was no sort of sense of urgency. And so ultimately we can find this disconnect between the engagement and the learning opportunity, depending on how short those milestones are. When we're looking at project-based learning and using AI, we got to break it into those two categories. Is this for process learning, or is this to literally produce a product? Once we've got either of those two, we can speed up our process for prompting, because ultimately we can actually focus on the right context windows, the right context chain of thoughts to actually articulate, this is the procedure we're trying to learn, this is enhancement. And really good AIs that I'm using to do that at the moment for process learning is things like Google Notebook LM, where you can put in all your research and then it can just sequentially go through key topics, give you an audio version, give you study notes, all those kind of things. But when we're looking at the procedure and the product, we're looking at things like Claude and ChatGPT, where it just can really put an output. Here's a finished product for you. I'm curious, what do you think? Is the future of learning in the projects that we design and build, and is it use case? Is it actually finding a problem and then trying to solve it very, very specifically? I was looking at Google Gemini this morning, and you can do app creation, you can do video, you can do code base, you can do all sorts of different things. Like this is where the video creation's coming in as well. The products that we're producing are getting more sophisticated, but the process to actually learn how to do that is where I feel like the gold is. If we can learn sequentially how to get better at prompt engineering, how to get better at understanding the syntax and the actual jargon of really detailed topics, such as design, such as, engineering, all those kind of things, because the nuance in your language that you use actually can improve your output, because the context is the key for the better the product. And when we're looking at something to learn, we might not know what to ask, we might not know what to say, and that's where sequential learning comes into it. So that's the point of project-based learning. We know this end goal. We're going to backwards map what do we need to do to achieve that. We're going to set milestones throughout the way, and then we're going to step by step do one task after the next. And when we hit a bottleneck, hit a snag, we don't understand this process, this procedure, we seek clarity, we seek help, we go and talk to our friends, we go look, do research, we can use AIs, whatever it is, but we seek to understand what is this real problem that we're encountering, and that is where the learning opportunity is, because we failed at something. And as long as we don't give up, there's no such thing as failure. We can actually go to the next stage and then just keep leveling up. Because ultimately, if we look at that project, and we've got a big showcase tomorrow. Our current school, we do a thing called Expo, and all the different faculties from across the school, English, Hizzy, TAS, all of them run projects for their classes. They find a problem, or the students find a problem, and then they try to solve it through the creation of a product. But arguably, the learning and the actual thing that we can assess on is in the actual process that we do. Curious to hear some of your thoughts. Is this the future? Where are we going? Rather than moving to the doing, but it's really being the architect of the learning. I heard something that Gary Vee talked about this morning, and now he's got I think it's the largest media company, individual, like private media company in the world. It's about $350 million a year revenue. And he was saying that if AI is creating all these content creators, you got deepfakes, you got all these things, and he isn't worried about AI because it's out of his control. He can only just control what he can do. And he's saying that everything is moving beyond the doing. And say if you're a coder and you just code, but if you are the manager of the coders and you tell people what to go and code, or you are, the architect, you actually design the building, the schematics, or are you the builder? You're actually putting a thing together. His argument is, if you are the person designing or managing or leading, you are, your skill set is the thing that's been enhanced. And then you can go from there to the builders, which is the thing that's really getting taken over by AI super quick, because, it can produce this level of output at such a rapid pace. So, food for thought. Is project-based learning the future of education? And if so, are we focusing more on the product or the process, or a combination of both? Remember, effort equals results. I'll see you in the next one.